Thank you.
It's great to see
Thank
you
you.
again.
Sarah, it's good. Thank you for all your coordination. You are
Oh,
just
absolute
incredible.
pleasure.
This is a shout out to you and to the good work you're doing. So very
Brilliant.
well
Thank
done.
you. It's great
Very
to
well
hear
done.
it from you. It means a lot.
Super.
Certainly does, and it's great to see everybody joining us again. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We are now on the hour at 2 o'clock, and we are recording the session, so we've got an opportunity to watch back this session as well. So, do pop yourself on mute, guys, if there's background
That's
noise.
cool. That shows, Erica, that shows that we're live.
Certainly does, Dave. Certainly does. There's nothing like a good barking dog to join us. So, welcome everybody to Peer Genius webinar Tuesday. We are live. We are with the wonderful Mr. Ulrich, who's kindly joined us again. Can you believe it? We were lucky to have Dave join us for our first conversation, but we've got a part 2 conversation and a fancy slide to go with it too this time. So, Dave, great to have you back.
I love being here. I'm looking at the slide. That looks like the barking dog. So that was a schedule that you obviously put in place with the little sound and the dog barked. And I am very impressed. I am very impressed. Great to be back. What a delight. I sure appreciate the conversation and the last 6 months. I think the 2020 is going to be, there's a movie, Man in Black, and they have a little button called, I think, the Neuralizer.
That's right.
And I think everybody's going to wake up on January 30 or on January 1st, December 31st this year, and hit their Neuralizer button, and the year will disappear. So tough year, without a doubt. Tough year.
It has been a really, really tough year. And, you know, the audience that we've got today are some really credible and established HR practitioners who are really keen to hear from you, Dave, in regards to, you know, some thoughts we want to get from you in terms of the last couple of months, and kind of what your nuggets of kind of practical information would be. Before we get into that, guys, just over to Sarah, just to kind of officially welcome us into this webinar from Peer Genius. Over to you, Sarah.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks very much, Erica. And it's great to see so many of you on today's call as well. So obviously from across the pond, so part 2. So I just want to say it's not been easy for us as a profession and as individuals supporting those organisations. So just a massive well done from the bottom of my heart, and we've just got to keep going. So for today, I'd love to hear from Dave just about how we don't revert back, how we can take the best practice that we've seen and really move forward as that profession. So really excited for today's session. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you to Erica as well for hosting today. So over back to you, Erica.
Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, thanks very much. So just as a reminder, Erica Farmer, welcome to Learning Limited. It's great to be here. I specialise in digital learning, webinars and 2-minute videos. So again, it's great to see so many regular faces, and thanks again for being with us. Just a little bit of housekeeping. As we mentioned before, the session is being recorded. There's lots of people that can't join us on the session today, but are super keen to watch back this conversation as well. And you'll have access as well for that. If you have any questions for Dave, which I'm pretty certain you will as we go through the conversation, do pop yourself on mute and pop your questions into the chat, and we will ask Dave as many questions as we can in the next half an hour. I hope that's okay for everybody, and we're good to get started. Guys, do pop yourself on mute so we've just got no background noise as well. Thank you very much. Right, should we get started?
Yeah.
Ready to go, Dave?
Here we go. I'm not muted, so that's good.
Yeah, it's a good job, really, isn't it? So as Sarah just talked about, we know, and you know, and I'm sure you're talking to lots of people about this, around just the challenges we've had, particularly since we were together last time, coming back kind of 3 or 4 months later. And what we want to hear from you, Dave, is how do you think we can evolve as a profession in HR? And, you know, we don't want to do that pinging back. We're hearing from CEOs and people that we're talking to go back to the good old days, as it were. But what can we do to kind of remain competitive and help drive that remote workforce? So what are your 3 tips, Dave, that you can share with us?
We should write a book, and we could write a book on that. Let me suggest 3 things really quickly. Number 1, start from the outside in. I was in a session, and I'm going to try to keep my answers short to get us a lot of questions. Somebody went through with me his incredible new app on employee engagement, and he showed me the phone and the app and how to engage employees and have a great experience. And he went 20 minutes. And at the end, he said, so would you help sponsor this? And I said, why? And he said, what do you mean why? And I said, why should I do that? And he said, because it's a great app. And I said, this is the problem. We start in HR by describing what we know and do, not what the business leader needs to have done. And so I said, you've just spent 20 minutes convincing me you're smart, but that doesn't help me, the business leader. So number one, start outside in. What are the business results our company needs? Customers, investors, community, social responsibility. Number two, link what we know and do to those results. And in a simple way, I believe there's three things we deliver in HR: talent, my fingers; organization, my fist; and leadership, the combination. So when I sit down with a business leader, I think and I'm only going to give 2 tips for sake of time, Erica. You said 2 minutes is all your videos are, so I'm going to try to keep my. So when I sit down with a business leader, my first question is, tell me what challenges you face. What is your scorecard? So what is her scorecard around customers, investors, productivity, social responsibility? Number 2, can I help you with talent, leadership, and organization? I should keep doing this: talent, organization, leadership, to make that happen. And here's a quick example. A week ago, somebody posted on LinkedIn, and I post a lot on LinkedIn. Dave Ulrich said our people are our most important asset. By the way, everybody in the world has said that. I think we could say Kate Bennett said that. That was just for Kate so that she pays attention. Hi, Kate. And by the way, I said, that's not what I said. Here's what I believe. Our people are our customers' most important asset. Boy, that one additional word: are we hiring, training, paying, communicating against what we will do to create value for our customers? 2 issues: start outside in through talent, organization, and leadership.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, which makes complete sense. And I think good practice.
I'm so glad that made sense.
It does make sense, absolutely. I was waiting for the third piece, but you said you were going to do 2.
I just did 2.
So I've got some questions starting to come for you, Dave, on the back of that already, actually, which we're not surprised. So I've got a question called from Beth Evans. Beth says, hi, she's going to get in early. She's been running HRBP training this morning, and she's really keen to know, how have you adapted your model, Dave, for 2020? How can we explain that? What's that mean for you for 2020?
You know, and I assume that's about the HR model, not leadership.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, Dave, your HR model is about centers of excellence and service centers. By the way, to some extent, that's the same. We've got to get an HR design right. How do we get our specialists, those that have deep expertise in compensation and talent and communication and careers, how do we get them connected with the generalists? And I think that work has to go on. And how do we do the administrative work? There's 2 ways we've adapted the model. One is when we're trying to build, Beth, an effective HR department or effective HR, it's not just about the design. I mean, the structure, specialist, generalist, administrative working together, we have discovered is one of 9 elements. Now I can go through the 9 elements, you won't remember. Go on LinkedIn, look up HR effectiveness, you'll find it. But I think the adaptation of the model is HR effectiveness is not just the structure, not just the governance. How do we get specialists and generalists and administrative work done? Here's the 9 elements really quickly. Do we know our reputation? Do we know our customers? Do we know our purpose? Do we know our HR design? Number 4. Number 5, do we build the right organization in the company? Do we create good talent and organization? Number 6, do we have the right analytics? Number 7, do we have the right HR practices? Number 8, do we have the right HR people? And number 9, does HR work well together? Now I can go into detail on any of those. But Beth, what I would say is the HR design is an important piece, but it's not the only piece. When I go visit a company, I visit HSBC. I don't say, wow, I'm going to go in because of their structure. HSBC has got a great organization structure. I love their chart. Well, that's stupid. I mean, it's not stupid, and I shouldn't say that about you. I could say Unilever, Royal Bank of Scotland, anybody. But I don't get attracted as a customer to the company because of their structure. I get attracted because of their reputation, their purpose, how they serve me as a customer, how they deliver the organization for me. That's the first shift. The second shift and I could do a lot on this, and again, I'm trying to be really quick. There's a big movement in the field today by almost every consulting firm under the rubric of agility. Throw all of the HR stuff, the centers of expertise specialist work and compensation and careers, and the administrative work, throw it into a big pool and then allocate it. I'm going to disagree. I think when you throw everything into a big pool and you marble everything together, you lose effectiveness. You lose effectiveness because the day-to-day stuff's going to outdo the strategic stuff. And so I still believe you've got to keep three things separate. The generalists who work in a business unit, a functional unit, a geographic unit to help that business succeed in the marketplace. The specialists, whatever you want to call them, who have deep expertise and talent and org development and compensation, and the administrative work. When you throw all of that into one big pool, it's kind of like going to a I love to think of metaphors. I'm not sure if any of you have ever made stew with all the leftovers in the fridge. So you go to your fridge and you got macaroni, you got some meat, you got some of this, you got some vegetables, and you say, oh, I don't know what to do with these leftovers. It's the third day. I better eat them quickly. So you throw them all into a stew and you kind of lose the flavor. And I get worried that that's one of the directions I see the HR redesign people going, is one big pool of a whole bunch of stuff, and they marble it together. I think we need to dissect it and then pull together it's better to have a plate with meat, vegetables. I've never used this metaphor before, and I never will again, but it's better to have it may be better to have a plate with meat and vegetables and salad rather than throw it all into one big stew where it loses its flavor. Beth, those are the two agendas, 9 dimensions. And the other is don't just create one big stew. Is that okay, Beth? Thank you.
Brilliant. So thinking about that HR model and the generalists then, Dave, what are the key skills that our generalists now need, considering where we are or where we
Great
were?
question.
Just a bit of noise in the background, guys. If you just pop yourself on mute, please, that'll be great.
Thanks. Erica, you are really good at this moderation. You're good at moderation. You're good at moderating. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly. How's that for a really honest answer? We are just starting 2 weeks ago, the 8th round of our HR competence study. And so for free, go in RBL.net, look up HR competencies. You can get 10 people in your company to get a free 360, and they will get a competency report. We'll amalgamate that. Here's the 5 things we're looking at going forward, and I don't know which one's going to pop out. Information saliency. How do you separate? How do you make sure in HR in these changing times we source information and we use information to make guidance, not just to do a dashboard? Number 2, how do we separate signal from noise? Right now, I'm overwhelmed with noise. I get emails galore. I get invited to things. How do I know the key signals that I better pay attention to? For example, in the United States, and I don't know the UK as much right now, if you don't pay attention to diversity, equity, and inclusion right now, and some of the racial issues, you're going to get in huge trouble. So how does HR separate signal from noise? How do we manage uncertainty? One of the things I'm really frustrated with right now is people say, tell me the new normal. Or they say, I know the new normal. As soon as somebody says to me, I know the new normal, I'm going to turn around and run. Actually, at first I'm going to say, so you must be incredibly rich. You know what the new stock prices will be. Can you tell me? Because you know the future from the present. I don't think we know a new normal. I think we live, number 3, in a world of continued uncertainty that we just simply don't know how to deal with. And so harnessing that uncertainty is a skill that I think last round we found navigating paradox is a key skill. This round, I think, by the way, I don't know, we'll find out. We'll get data, join us in the study. I think harnessing uncertainty is going to be a key, and we have some details of that. Number 4 is providing guidance. And I hope we have a little time to talk about that. I think in the HR space, we have been very descriptive. Here's the culture. I got a heat map. It's these dimensions. Here's the leadership competencies you have. And here's how you compare against best in class. I think we got to go beyond that to provide guidance. Which competency should you focus on? Which cultural attributes should you focus on? I think it's now time for HR to move from descriptive work to prescriptive work. And number 5, the things we're studying. And by the way, I know we've missed some. I'm not defensive, but these are the 5 things we're looking at in this new research. It's done by Mike Ulrich, our son, and Pat Wright, who's the best HR scholar in the world. The last one is social citizenship. How does HR play in an increasingly transparent, socially responsible world? So those 5 things, I'm not even going to try to do them again because I'll forget them. But those are the 5, well, information, sourcing and managing information asymmetry to get new information, noise from signal. I love that one. I don't know how to do it. It's a tricky one. Uncertainty, guidance, and citizenship. Those are the things we're looking at now.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Dave. And a good question from Rupert there was asking about what your research areas are at the moment. And that top 5, I think, fits into that really nicely, right?
We have 2 research areas, and I'm so by the way, it's a huge mistake to do 2 at the same time because we're confusing people. One is HR competencies that I just went through. The other is organizational guidance that I'll do it in a nutshell. Erica, you just won the lottery with 20 million pounds. Woo!
Oh,
she's happy.
amazing.
By the way, look at this. This is amazing. Here's the question. Where do I invest that money? By the way, that's a financial question. Every company has, and many of us, if we have a financial advisor, they have an investment portfolio. Do I invest in stocks or bonds, long-term, short-term, mid-cap, small-cap, blah, 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 commodities? You know what? The field of HR has 4 areas they work in, and I'll repeat them again. Talent. There's a lot of things we do in talent. We have a lot of initiatives. We've identified 9 key initiatives in talent. Organizational capability building, we've identified 12 initiatives or capabilities. Leadership, we've identified 6 skills for leadership. And the HR, they're the arms that hold all that up. We've identified 9 dimensions, Beth, I just went through them, of good HR. That's 36 areas we in HR could invest in initiatives. Oh, that's a lot. Here's the question. Where should we invest a scarce resource? Should I do leadership training programs? Should I do talent succession planning? Should I do talent acquisition? Should I do talent removal? Should I do innovation as a capability? We now have created what we call an organizational guidance system, which is simply an initiative portfolio that says, given the outcomes we want to create with employees, customers, investors, communities, where should we invest? RBL.ai. It's a 15-minute survey for each of those 4 areas, talent, organization, leadership, and HR. And you'll get a report and it's free. By the way, part of it is I'm really old. I want to institutionalize some of our IP. RBL.ai. If you take that individual report, you'll get a sheet. If you get 10 people in your company, you'll get a company report. That's all free. It's taken us 18 months to create this. We did a pilot, and I'll shut up. This is, by the way, you just made a huge mistake. Never go to somebody doing their dissertation or their master's thesis and say, what are you studying? Because they'll give you a 6-hour lecture on things you don't care about. And I've made this mistake before. We can help you figure out where should you invest in HR to have impact. That's what we're studying.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that, Dave. And I think all of those areas are just relevant to everybody on the call. But like your question was, where should we invest scarce resources? Also, where should we start, perhaps? Because that's quite a lot there, right?
It's a lot. So thinking again, and I don't want to bore you to death, but we have 5 outcomes: employee outcomes, productivity, well-being; strategy outcomes, implementing our digital strategy; customer outcomes, net promoter score, revenue per customer; investor financial outcomes, and social citizenship. 5 outcomes. We have 36 rows. All of those things in talent, leadership, and organization. That's 180 cells. Here's what we found in our pilot. Companies are spending about 1% of their total revenue in those 180 cells. So if you're $1 billion company, you're spending about $100 million in those cells. We love to ask business leaders, are you getting a return on the 100 million? Is it the right way to spend the 100 million? Actually, it's not 100, it's 10 million. I got 1%. I'm getting my percents off. It's 10 million. Are you getting a return on the 10 million? And the HR people say, oh, I don't know. I have a scorecard.
Mm.
Well, that doesn't tell me. We now have been able to say in those 180 cells, 5 columns, 36 rows, here's the 5 cells you should invest in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we have a methodology to do that. That is I just get up and shout Hosanna. Well, I shouldn't do that. I shout hallelujah. I shouldn't do that either. I shout go Brexit. Maybe I shouldn't do that either. But I just say, this is what we've been waiting for in HR, to say it's not just about the HR activity, it's the outcome that we produce. And we can now tell you where to start.
And there's data that sits behind that data analytics. I think we touched on that a little bit last time. So important, isn't it? So absolutely.
Without the analytic, I mean, and by the way, data often measures what is, but what we want to measure is what should be. When I go to a doctor, and I know nobody on the call would ever have this, they do all their tests and everything, and they do blood work and height and weight. And then after a half hour, they look at me seriously and say, Dave, you need to lose weight. And I'm going, oh my gosh, where did you get that insight? I can't believe that you came up with that. I don't need to know I need to lose. I know I need to lose weight. By the way, I'm being personal. What I want to go to the doctor is and say, I've tried. What can you do that helps me get there? So somebody says, you need to have better talent. Whoa, write that down. Talent, people are most important asset. Whoa, I'm going to write that down. That's not helpful to me. What I want to know is, where should I invest in talent to make it happen? Is it hiring talent? Is it training people? Is it performance management? Is it career management? Is it communication? And is it a better employee experience? Of those 9 areas in talent, where should I invest to get the outcome you want? And I think that's the work in HR that's kind of, and by the way, I say that we have this solved. Let me just stop. We're 30% up an S curve, but at least we're on the curve. I mean, this is a moonshot that has taken off and has started, but that's the work we're doing. RBL.ai, it's free. That's the other cool thing. We're trying to build a database.
And we'll definitely share that link and the output of this as well, Dave, and get as many of our teams and our friends and our peers and colleagues to engage with that, because it sounds fantastic. So thank you so much. And we've got some more questions coming in for you, Dave. A question from Sarah Ramsden. Sarah says, I'm a new head of HR and I'm with an NHS provider in general practice. Which of your model values would you advocate we explore first to drive best practice forward, given our current work pressures managing COVID and welfare? Oh, that's a toughie. Love that.
You're going to hear me answer almost every question. I don't know for sure, because I think one of the dangers is, in fact, I'm posting in 20 minutes an essay that says one of the mistakes leaders make is when they discover a solution to their problem, they then share the solution and assume everybody else is going to get it. That's not good leadership. That's good case studies. But Sarah, my job would be to ask you a couple of questions. What is the value that HR needs to give my company right now? Is it around employee well-being? Is it around employee productivity? Is it taking care of the health of the employees? Is it around strategy execution? Is it around, and I don't know, Sarah, your company, but everyone I talk to right now is we'll digitize everything. It's kind of like a strategy in the 70s and 80s. It's, strategy is the word. Now it's digital. Is it around better connection with key customers so that we get revenue from customers who are changing? Is it about profitability? Is it about social responsibility? I would start, Sarah, by saying, which of those outcomes are my business leaders most concerned about? And actually engage them in a conversation. One of the things, Sarah, that I think is really fun to do is to say, here's 5 outcomes, 5 members of a business team. Could you each divide 100 points as to where we should focus? And then put it in front of them and say, you guys don't have a clue. You guys and gals, I'm not being gender neutral. You executives aren't clear. You're asking us in HR to design an HR system when it's not clear what the North Star is. So my first job is to help you. Which of those outcomes should get our attention in the short term? And it may be financial. I'm working with some companies. This COVID, and this is why it depends. This COVID crisis for for lodging, transportation, restaurants, entertainment, it's devastating. I mean, We talk to people in Las Vegas, their rooms are at 30 to 40% capacity. They're managing costs. I talked to a manufacturing firm yesterday. Because of the industry they're in, they just had to lay off 20% of their people. You know, I know that's hard, but that's the reality that we may be facing. It may be the financial. For others, it's our customers are changing. They're now living in a digital virtual world. How do we adapt? So I try, Sarah, to start by getting clarity about the outcomes. Then second question, and I'm going to be redundant, what do we then need in talent, organization, and leadership to make that happen? Talent. Do we need to hire new people? Do we need to give better experiences? Do we need to build better incentives? What do we need as a capability? Anyway, those, let me stop with that. I could go further. That's probably where I'd go.
Well, Dave, I think what you're answering is what people are asking, because we've got another question from Lynn that's very similar. How do we get our senior leaders to really listen, engage, and understand the value of HR? But I like the process that you just talked about, divvying up the points or whatever. Yeah.
Well, let me say, I don't think we get them to listen and hear us. I think we have to listen and hear them first. And so the issue is, business leader, listen to me. I think the issue is, business leader, would you please help me understand your challenges? That value starts with the receiver. They're the receivers of what we do. I've talked about that a lot. They shouldn't be listening to us. We should be listening to them, and then repeat back. I like to move. I've tried lately to move from listening to hearing. I listen. Your words were in my head. Did I hear you right? This is what I hear you saying to me. And then the other cool thing that we can do in HR, and I've seen a couple of folks do this. Let's say your business leader says, gee, we got to work on customer service. Let's just pick that as one of those outcomes. Give me a week. And in that week, go look at what did she talk about in her comments, publicly and privately. Where has she spent her time about the business leader? Go back at the end of the week and say, last week we were hearing when you divvied up your 100 points, you put 60 of them around customers because that's so critical. In the last week, I've done a little homework. In the last 3 months, you spent less than 5% of your time with customers. In the last 5 talks you've given, I've done this content analysis, Wordle. I hope, is it Wordle? It's where you do the word print. I've looked at your last talks, I put them into a word print, and here it is, and customer shows up in little tiny words. My feedback to you in private as a leader is, your behavior is so loud that nobody, anyway, I think people have got it. You're saying customer, but you're not acting that way.
Yeah.
One of my favorite leadership coaching lines comes out of religion. Pope Francis is named after St. Francis. And again, you don't have to be Catholic to appreciate this logic. St. Francis was a wealthy man in the 1100s. And here was his line: I preach the gospel and sometimes use words. Now, let me take that line again. It's a great line. I preach the gospel and sometimes use words. You teach customers behavior and commitment, not by what you say. You sometimes use words. It's by what you do. Well, the better example, I don't know if anyone here has kids 8 to 12. And sometimes we say to our kids, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room. When our kids turned 8 to 12, they got a little snotty. Now they're in their 30s and their kids are snotty to them. And it's so cool. But anyway, our kids got a little snotty and we said, clean your room. And our daughter looked at me and said, Dad, your room's a mess. and I think we lead by example. And I think we in HR can hold up a mirror to our business leader. If you say employee well-being and connection is so critical today, you the business leader said that, the last 4 or 5 meetings you've been in, you never expressed some empathy and emotion for the employees. You went into the goals. Okay, I've said enough about that, perhaps.
But again, Dave, we've got some good questions. Just very over time because we've got half an hour with you today on the webinar.
I'm going to go quick. I'll go short.
Tracy says, you think it's important to not listen only to business leaders, but also employees, which is exactly the point you were talking about there. Because if we only listen to the leadership team, could we be missing out on some great ideas? And how do we do both?
Can I even add to that? Listen inside the company to leaders and employees, and outside the company to customers, investors, and communities.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. And how do you do both? One of the things we found in our last research is great HR leaders and business leaders navigate paradox. That means you live in a duality world. If you say, I am just here to serve the employee, that you'll fail because there's no marketplace. If I'm only here to serve the customer, you'll fail because there's not going to be any employees. So I think that just means allocating our time and attention to those multiple stakeholders inside the company, the employee, the business leader, and outside the company, the customer, the investor, the community reputation that we seem to have in our business.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy, for that question. Great question. Very, very aware of time. We just quick wrap up, Dave, before we let everybody go today. What's the future?
Oh.
I know I'm kind of asking you to put your crystal ball in. Future of
No,
HR.
I feel so
Come
bad.
on.
We're wrapping up. I had in my head we had an hour. I'm so sorry. I love to end every session and ask people, what was the best year of your life? And I may have done this in my other sessions. And they say, when I was 15, when I was in college. I think the best year of your life is the next 12 months. The best is yet ahead. So what's the future of HR? I think all of these combined crises, the global pandemic, the racial injustice, the immigration issues, the economic malaise, the political squabbles in America right now, I think they're all HR. They're all about people and organization, and more than we've almost ever seen. And so I think the future for HR is literally in our hands. Are we using people, organization, talent, organization, leadership? Everybody remember that stupid thing, but it's good, easy. Talent, organization, leadership to help my business be successful in the marketplace so that, and I'm going to end with this, we can create a place that's safe for people. We are in human resources. And I know I talk about business and results. I care so deeply about people, but the best thing I can give an employee is an organization that succeeds in the marketplace. Those companies that are laying off people because beyond their control, what a tragedy. Now, it may have to be done, but how do I create organizations that succeed in the marketplace so that the people we care so much about can have a workplace that continues to work for them? I just, boy, do I hope we can make that happen.
Absolutely. Dave, thank you so much for your time once again. It's absolutely flown. Thank you, everybody, for dialing in. Thank you for your questions. Please look out for the recording. Sarah, over to you just to close the session.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And just a wellbeing check-in, Dave. How are you, and are you okay?
We are doing great. Thank you. And you, Sarah?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. So my little dog's just sat underneath me. And are the grandkids okay? All doing all right?
Oh, everyone's good. My mother, who's 91, 92 in a couple of weeks, is next door. That's why we have this second location next to her. And she was I was doing a session the other day and I said, look there's my mother. And she just, no, don't show that. Because she doesn't know what I do. And she watched and said, I couldn't hear because I have a headset, but she said, that sounded interesting. So we are doing well.
Oh.
Although, let me be honest, it is a tough time. Everyone I know, and everybody should raise their hands so that you agree with me, we're facing some emotional stresses we've never faced.
Yeah.
I'm facing them. My wife and I are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 7 months. And I said to my wife last night, I think I'm going to go up to the condo to be with my mom and help her with some stuff today. And my wife said, that's a good idea. I'm staying here. By the way, that was a piece of feedback. But yeah, and by the way, we have a great relationship. But I think everyone's facing some of that. And I hope that we can run into it and just be okay with that. But net, yeah. I mean, we are blessed beyond blessings. And I hope you are too, Sarah. How are you?
Good. Yeah, going really well. So just really busy. So yeah, thanks for everyone that's joined us today. And Dave, I know we got you 2 times. Is there a third time lucky for us as well?
As soon as any day you want, anytime. This is delightful for me. Thank you for letting me talk.
No, it's absolutely fabulous. It's been really good, Fab. And I've probably been stalking you, but I've been speaking to somebody that knows Doug and Polly from your church.
Yeah, absolutely. Say hi for me.
Yeah.
Say hi for me. I get worried when people say they're stalking me. So I'm not sure that's means the same thing on your side of the pond that it means on mine, but I will check behind me periodically. So
I've been speaking to their son, Logan. So obviously he's in HR tech.
Yep.
Yeah, so he did say
That's
to me,
great.
mention Doug and Polly and you'll know who they are from your church.
We are involved in our church, and I think whatever source of meaning you find in your life. And let me broaden that. That could be church, it could be nature, it could be music. That's one of the personal things, is find this setting and place where you can get that personal renewal, wherever that is and whatever it is. And I again, I wouldn't impose I hope I said that. I'm posting in half an hour. Don't impose my solution to those emotional issues to you, but I would beg you, us as HR people, help people find their solution to the emotional struggles, and then cherish that, because when we find that, it's so helpful. So that's we each find our. What do you do, Sarah, to find your emotional reserve and emotional well-being?
Yeah, so for me, it's just like my purpose. So last Tuesday was the first time that I struggled. So working for myself, and I've just started working with Kate and was like, I'm really struggling today, but it's because my webinar was at 4 o'clock and not my regular 10:30. So what I give a lot to the HR community, but actually what I get back, not having that day, I really struggled with. So as long as I've got my purpose,
Nice.
yeah, so it wasn't until it had gone that I struggled to say, actually, what is it that's missing today? Because at 5 o'clock after
nice.
the webinar, I was geared up to go. So I was just like, oh goodness, it's time.
Well, and again, we each find our own. One of the things I hope in HR we can do is help people find a safe place to have that. One of my closest friends and partner called last week and said, Dave, I need to talk. What's going on? He said, my mom just found out she had cancer. You know what? I hope we all have someone where we call and say, I need to talk. And I said, you want to get together? He said, no, I don't want to do that, but can I spend a few minutes? I had a call. I canceled it. By the way, I called him and I said to my friend, I won't name him, I got an issue. I can't get through. I'm struggling with this. And he said, okay. By the way, that's what, boy, do I hope an organization can be a safe place to bring some of that whole person. By the way, you still got to produce. You still got to win in the marketplace. I'm not ashamed of that. But if we can provide that safety where people can have those conversations, I think it helps us succeed in the marketplace. So, and again, I wouldn't impose that, but somebody may be a deep introvert and they may not want to talk to anybody, and that's the way they find their solutions. Good.
Yeah.
Go enjoy time by yourself. That works. But for this friend, we just had a great conversation last Friday, and now it doesn't take away the pain of having tragedy in our lives, but at least find what works for you. So, boy, Erica, we're going to do part 3 right now.
Woo!
So
Let's do it.
You have
We're already there.
You have such a great laugh. This just, by the way, one of the things I always coach leaders, and I'm babbling, when
So
somebody leaves,
away.
when somebody leaves an interaction with you, do they leave feeling better or worse about themselves? I think that's one of my favorites and simplest leadership tests. Well, how do I calculate that? You don't calculate it, you feel it. Even in bad news, even if you got to let somebody go. Did you do that? And I worked with a woman. She did it. She let somebody go and the person left feeling great about himself. I mean, hopefully we can make that. And Erica, your laugh is just infectious. All in favor of that, raise your hand. And maybe that's a place to go. You've got an infectious laugh that just makes me feel better. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Anytime, Sarah, anytime.
Pleasure. And I know you talked a lot about that human approach to it as well. I think we need to get to discretionary effort now as an organisation. So we can't give a lot of salaries. We've got survivor syndrome. So for me, it's about those great conversations and it's that middle management piece that we really need to work on as well.
Great. It's a great time to be in HR.
I don't know if anyone else would agree with you at the moment.
It is when we see the benefits of what we do. When we see those people who might otherwise be misaligned or mistreated or live forever in their anxiety and emotional stress, if we can help a little bit. Anyway, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time again, Dave. I really, really appreciate it and everything that you do to support.
Follow me on LinkedIn if you can. I'm posting and I got a whole bunch of stuff out there, and stay engaged. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Dave.
And look after yourself.
I am.
Grandkids. All right, then. You take care, Dave.
Thanks very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take
Thanks
care.
again. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Do feel free to leave the session now. All right, you.
There's just one person on that said, do you want to go out and come back in?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. And UK, yeah. Yeah, cool.